welcome to the Fertility Conversations podcast. The goal of this podcast is to create more awareness about infertility and to provide support to people trying to conceive. Thank you for listening today, and we hope you will be encouraged. And now, here is your host, Ola.
Welcome to episode 33. Today I have with me a lovely guest, Abiola Adewusi. She is the founder of Medbarn Agency, which offers professional support services in the field of reproductive medicine in Nigeria. You can connect with our agency on Instagram at Medbarn Agency. Her details would also be in the show notes. So welcome, Abiola, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So to start off, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your agency.
All right. My name, as you've introduced, is Abiola Adewusi. I am the Director of Medbarn Agency, and I would say I'm a founder as well. I believe in growth, and so I believe since this is an entrepreneurial level, we need to start at a level where we can grow. And so that's the reason why I don't usually use the word founder or CEO or stuff like that. But about myself, I am a medical sonographer by profession. That's what I went to school for. But before I went to school for medical sonography, I had a little stint in some other field, an area of study. The first one is accounting.
Okay.
I have a ordinary national diploma in that, and I'd started the higher national diploma before I decided to travel abroad at the time due to the closure of schools that students are experiencing at the time as well back then. Mm-hmm. And I changed career courses, and I then eventually got a bachelor's degree in human resource management.
Wow.
And I worked in the field for about, say, 4 years before I decided to make a U-turn into the medical field. And going into the medical field basically it took a lot of research and soul searching, and really what I want to do that I would like to do that would be fulfilling to me as a person. And so I decided to go into ultrasonography. And because I had little ones and I wanted to be able to still work from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 kind of job, and have my weekends with the kids and all that. So that kind of just fit right down my alley. And, people wonder, how are you able to get into the science field from your background?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm from a family of scientists, and I've always been science inclined. When I was in high school, I took sciences. When I was in college doing my human resource management degree, I've always taken electives that are in the science field. So It wasn't very difficult for me to make a U-turn and come back into the sciences. And that was where I guess I was always going to be anyway. And it's been very gratifying being in the field of reproductive medicine, because when I graduated from the medical ultrasound school, my first job out of school is with a fertility clinic, and I got a very good tutelage from she's late now, God rest her soul, Dr. Caroline Coulomb. She was my mentor until she passed. She took me under her wings and she told me, she said, well, I know you went to school for ultrasound, but you're going to have to learn more about fertility and, recurrent pregnancy loss and immunology for that matter. So, and she was one of the pioneers of IVF in the US, and she started the program in Mayo Clinic. And that was how I started my journey. So, and because I had the solid grounding in the field of reproductive medicine, it made me fall in love with the career, altogether. I didn't go to school for it. I had to learn on the job, go for trainings, go for courses. and, kind of just trained with the best. And that was basically how I landed in the field of reproductive medicine. And it's 18 years down the line, and I'm still learning and still enjoying, what I do. And helping patients is like the most gratifying thing. When you have patients that are helpless and they're desirous of having their own children, and you're able to offer any kind of assistance whatsoever, whether it eventually worked or not, they just leave feeling like, okay, I think I've done my best. I think I've tried my best. And when it finally clicks and they get their answers, I mean, it's just the most wonderful feeling in the world. So that's basically, and I'm here, so now when I came 14 years ago to work with Medical Arts Center, I from the US, I just basically continued the same thing I was doing in America. It's so interesting because my late mentor, Dr. Coulomb, was the one that introduced me to, my boss at Medical Arts Center, Professor Ashuru, at the time when we met in Chicago. And I didn't know who he was at the time. I didn't know he pioneered IVF either. But him and his wife stopped by at the office, and they came to talk to me. And, they said, well, you're who we need at our practice in Nigeria. And I'm like, okay, if I come to Nigeria, I don't think I want to work for anybody. I think I want to just do my own thing. And, talks kept going, and we just had conversation. And I've always wanted my children to grow up in Nigeria anyway. So, that kind of worked out. And I, a year later, I just found myself in Nigeria. I packed my bags and brought my kids, and we're in Nigeria. And I'm still in Nigeria till today, 14 years down the line. I spent 14 years at Medical Arts Center. And in June of last year, I just felt, although a couple of years prior to that, I've been thinking, I really need to focus on, maybe doing something a little bit more challenging and get out of my comfort zone. Because what I was doing at Medical Arts Center is now more of it has become routine. And yes, you fine-tune things. Sometimes, you just, go to work and make sure that things are going on autopilot and moving the way they're supposed to. And I think for me, if there's no challenge, there's no drive. I mean, it's comforting to be able to be there for patients that actually, need the help and talk to them. But I think that something more challenging needs to be done. And as I sat behind my desk, I realized that there's a big gap. There's still a big gap, between the clinics and the patients that it's a void that needed to be filled. And I thought to myself, there is no way I'll be able to fill that void still at Medical Arts Center. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to disengage and try to step out and do, what I'm doing at the moment. Going to Medbarn, like you succinctly said in your introduction, Medbarn is all about support services to fertility, anything that has to do with reproductive medicine. We offer support services to the clinics, we offer support services to the patients, and we offer support services in any aspect of fertility treatment. So basically, there are different umbrellas, the windows. As far as the patient is concerned, we offer, consulting services, counseling services, and we, offer fertility, mental health, training. If you need anything, like for instance, I had an old patient. She just called me out of the blue and said, "Oh, I need this special condom that my husband needs to, and I've looked everywhere, I can't find it, and the clinic that I'm using does not have it. They ran out, and they said, there's no, they can't find it anywhere. Is there a way you can help me?" And I picked up the phone, I called around, and I was able to get her what she needed. So of course, that's not listed in the services, but anything, because the truth of the matter is that if you've been in this field for almost 2 decades, then you should be able to know how to navigate your ways to get anything that you want, be it for the patient or the clinic or whoever is in need of it. So, I just use that as an example. It can be simple as that and be very, very difficult to be able to have her accomplish her goals for the treatment that she wants to do. So, anything as far as the clinics are concerned, we help in the area of third-party reproduction, recruitment of donors, recruitment of surrogates, and recruitment of donor sperm as well. So if clinics need donors and surrogates, and we will be happy to support and assist them to do, source those people. And we screen them to make sure that, they're okay and good to go, so they're readily available to clinics and to patients alike. And also, we do consulting services, from our wealth of experience. If you're a clinic and you need, to tap into my wealth of experience as far as, things running in the organization or in the clinic as far as fertility is concerned, we have that down. We can help and assist. I actually have one or two clinics right now that are startups, and they're utilizing our services to be able to get themselves started off on the right foot, because there are lots of things involved. There are standards, there are regulation, and all of that. By the way, I'm also the Secretary General of the Association for Fertility and Reproductive Health in Nigeria, and I hold a very important role, and I know that, from the regulations and guidelines that we have for clinics that practice ART, I know them like the back of my hand, and I would be able to, help any upcoming clinic that needs the assistance to know where they need to go and what they need to do and how they need to get started, because there are lots of clinics out there, not necessarily quacks, but they're not doing it right because they don't have the right resources, to tap from, because, there are too many informations out there, too many people doing different things and doing it their own way. But, there is a good way and there is a not so good way that things can be done to achieve the same goal. So basically, I think I've touched on everything about myself and about Medbarn so far, and we can talk more later if something comes up.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's an amazing introduction. Yes. And of course, you've been in so many different areas, and now to return to fertility, which is actually perfect, considering infertility affects so many people in Nigeria and outside Nigeria as well. And it's actually amazing as well, you being the secretary of the
Association for Fertility and Reproductive Health.
Yeah, that's pretty handy, actually. So, like you noted rightfully, being able to know so many things that are involved and restrictions and rules to abide by. So that's actually really good. You noted that you provide services to clients and to clinics and support services. So if someone is listening, they can approach you directly for donor eggs, or do they need to go through a clinic?
Yes, they can approach us directly for donor egg, and we'll be happy to send them to wherever they want the donor sent to. So they can, select a clinic of their choice and come to us and, source for donors or for surrogates. We do that all the time, yeah. And we'll send them to the clinics.
Perfect. And is that
and the clinics can do the same. They can actually source for donors and surrogates on behalf of the patient directly from us, and we'll send them to them.
Okay, and that is just within Nigeria, or can that be sent to other
anywhere?
Countries?
You can be anywhere in the world. You can be anywhere in the world, and we do have a lot of patients coming in from diaspora.
Right.
So I do have a handful of clients actually that lives abroad that we deal with. So that's not a problem. The only thing that we haven't done to date is have a donor travel out of Nigeria to go somewhere else, and that's that is, or a surrogate for that matter, and that comes with its own restrictions. I think there are lots of ways around it where you don't have to physically get that person out you could just, retrieve the eggs and ship the eggs, or retrieve
Right.
the sperm and ship the sperm without actually physically getting. There are ways around it. There are ways that things can be done. And, the future, well, the future is here already, is, you basically egg banking and sperm banking has been there forever, but egg banking is like, that's the new norm.
Yeah. And is that getting more common in Nigeria, you see? Are you seeing more of that?
Yeah, well, we're not there yet, but we're migrating towards that.
Right. And in terms of, surrogacy, I'm starting to see a little bit more, but even then, it's still very hush hush. I wonder if you're seeing a lot more. You're in the business. I'm just wondering, are you seeing a lot more people comfortable with using surrogates?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's absolute. When I came back to join Medical Art Center in 2006, it was almost a taboo. Nobody
Yeah.
talks about it. It's, hush is like, you can't even open your mouth to say you want to use a surrogate. Like, you can't, it's unheard of. 14 years down the line, right now, today, I would say we've come a very long way. And now it's more, people are talking about it. It's more acceptable. It's no big deal anymore. Although 50% of the clientele still like to carry baby bumps and pretend that they are the one that are pregnant, but 50% are willing to say, I use a surrogate. So what? It's no big deal. So it's getting more and more acceptable, and that's the reason why I think that people are exploring that option, before they consider adoption.
Right.
So that way, at least they have some of their genetic makeup, just being carried by someone else.
Right.
I think that's it's getting more and more acceptable at this time.
Right. It's interesting how much culture and society, how much role they play in that aspect in terms of accepting that people still feel the need to pretend they're the ones carrying the baby, but it's just because, again, they're trying to avoid the stigma that could go along with it. Still.
Well, yeah. Well, we cannot totally eliminate the factor of culture.
Yeah.
We are who we are. It is what it is. I think that the the culture has a very strong hold on us, and we cannot ignore that fact. So I think as a patient, you would have to know the kind of family that you're from. If your family is the type that would look at you funny, well, you better have that baby bump wrapped up and act like you delivered that child. I have no objection whatsoever to having baby bumps. And if you think that your family is the liberal type and they're well exposed and they're well educated, and I'll also add, it has nothing to do with education and exposure, because when it comes to culture, exposure goes to the doghouse and education goes to the doghouse, because nobody thinks about education and exposure at that time. They just want the culture thing to take precedence. But you, as a person, you have to determine what works for you. So it's not a one size fits all. If you think that you're from a family that they will just look at you and say, then you do the needful and just work accordingly. But I think with time we will get past that, and everybody will look at it as a form of treatment rather than castigate people that actually explore that option. Back in the days, if you don't have a womb or your womb is compromised, that's it. You don't have a choice. You're done. But now there are options. There are options available for you, and that's technology, that's science, and we have to embrace it.
Wonderful. Well said. And do you think society is getting more accepting of donor gametes, donor eggs, donor embryos, donor sperm?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things that patients would have to come to the realization of accepting or embracing, because, you have a lot of people, even now,
Yeah.
you talk to them about donor, they're like, excuse me, I'm just 45 years old. Why should I use donor? I can use my own eggs. And you're like, sorry, you're considered advanced maternal age at that time. And the ovarian reserve is being depleted. And they're in shock, because, and that's the reason why more awareness needs to be done by, professionals like us to tell people that, hello, once you clock 30, it's the hourglass is fast depleting as far as ovarian reserve is concerned. So that aspect, I think a lot of people are probably still not very educated about, because they feel like if I'm 45, I should still be able to use my egg, but that's not the case. When you're 30 and nothing has happened, and you probably need to, if you haven't met Mr. Right yet, you probably need to start thinking of preserving your eggs until Mr. Right comes, because that's the best time, between 30 and 35. After that, it's a long shot. You may just be getting the bottom of the barrel. So, and that's the reason why we're also advocating social egg freezing for the career women out there, or people that, maybe wants to just continue with schooling until they're, 40. They should be thinking of preserving their eggs. Otherwise, when they get to 40, 45, they maybe have to consider donor eggs. And, that's the difficult part. Some people, it takes them, months, years to even come to terms with using, donor egg. And then you start to ask the question, if you can adopt a child, you can adopt an egg. You're taking donor egg to be able to procreate and have a child of your own that you can love. So if it's just donor egg, at least the sperm of the husband is there, and it's still your child because you're carrying the baby, and you're not going to tell. How many people are you going to tell? Oh, by the way, the DNA of this child is not mine. It's not the same as mine. Who says that? Who talks about that? Nobody. So it's just a matter of pick your choice. If you're able to preserve your eggs, preserve it. If you're not able to preserve your eggs, just have at the back of your mind that you may end up having to use donor egg when you eventually start to plan to have your family.
And it doesn't help that, our parents, our mothers did have children till 45, some cases even 50. So I think in our minds, we think that, well, if they could, sure, certainly we have more time.
Well, the truth of the matter is that, if you look back in the days, our parents actually started early, having babies early. They don't wait until, they're in their 30s to start having children. They started having children when they're 19, 20, 21. And, yes, it happens that some people may actually end up getting pregnant, misfired shots at 50 or 45 or whatever the case may be, children that you're not expecting, you just end up pregnant and you have another child when you thought you were done. It happens all the time. And I'm not saying that it can never happen, but I'm saying if you want to be deliberate about it, don't wait until it's too late.
And of course, we talked a lot about donor eggs. What about donor sperm? I mean, in our society, there's such a huge...
Well, yeah, it's, the reality is that infertility now, we know now what we didn't know before, because it used to be, it's the woman's problem.
Exactly.
If a couple get married and they don't have a child 1-2 years, then everybody starts to look at the woman and say, hello, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we know now that even the men contribute 50% to the infertility cases that exist. So they're just as guilty as the woman. Most of the time, they're even more guilty. than the woman, because most of the time it's either low sperm count or bad sperm or no sperm at all.
Yeah.
And that's the instances where they need to use donor sperm. And, you can just imagine. And then they say, oh, the advice of the woman, you're still young, nothing is happening. You go for tests, hey, go and try outside now. And then, boom, she gets pregnant. Then, she's not able to say, oh, I'm just going to try to see if it'll click when it clicks. She'll just keep quiet and have the baby for the man. And, that's why they say Nigeria has the highest rate of
I know.
paternity.
I that. I was like, whoa.
It's a cultural thing. You talk to your auntie, you talk to your sister, you talk to and they say, just go and try, see if it will click. Just go and try, see if it will click. And you do the hush, the thing will click, the first one will click, the second one will click. You start having them say, Shebi, he's bearing his name now, Shebi, whatever. And the cycle goes on. Because the man himself is thinking, I'm the man. Why would I?
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with me. And, unfortunately, most of our men do not want to go and get tested. No. They don't. I don't know whether it's for fear of finding out that they're the problem or whatever the case may be, but they just don't want to go and find out that maybe they are the issues. And most of the time, the woman will not wait till the ones that don't want to go and try to see if they would wait until they're 50. And then they'll now start trying or seeking help, IVF treatment. And by that time, it's too late. So when you talk to them about donor, it's so difficult because then they're thinking, wow, I've wasted all this time waiting and hoping and praying that something will click. Meanwhile, it's my husband that had the problem all along. And that's the reason why we campaign to young ones. Do not wait. Once you start trying for 12 months, you are young, you're in your 20s, you're trying for 12 months, nothing is happening, go and seek help. Because it may be easier to tweak at that time, and then you'll be able to get pregnant than when you wait for another 10 years down the line. It gets a little bit more complicated as, the couple ages.
Yes, so true. And in terms of you saying that you're raising awareness for the young ones now, how is that going? People being more receptive to the idea of egg freezing, of the idea of just being aware, because, again, people still have a lot of issues, even accessing fertility treatment, right? Because people don't want to play God.
Well, it's work in progress. The journey has started. Like I said, I'm the Secretary General of the Fertility Association in Nigeria, and we do have a training committee. Okay. The training committee is dedicated to actually getting this awareness out to people. We just finished a fertility forum last week, I believe it was last week, Saturday. Okay. I moderated that webinar that we opened up to the general public, and all we talked about was social egg freezing. Some people will have to freeze their egg for health reasons if they're going through oncology, for treatment for cancer, whatnot. If you're young, you've been diagnosed with cancer, a male or female, you can actually have your sperm stored for future use. You can actually have your eggs stored for future use. Some people are more advanced in the Western world that they actually take a tissue out of the ovary and freeze it for future, so they can implant it back into the ovary to redevelop the ovarian tissue. There's so many technology out there that just gives room for tweaking things. You say that fertility specialists are playing God. They're not playing God. They're just making available the options that are out there. So if I talk to you about social egg freezing and you feel like, oh, well, maybe I can't even afford it at this time. But yes, make an educated decision about it. If I'm not able to afford it at this time, or maybe, I'm not ready, Mr. Right will come, that's fine. And the truth of the matter is that social egg freezing does not even guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee anything because you may freeze your eggs and use it in the future and nothing comes out of it. Like IVF is not 100% guaranteed, but at least it increases your chances of being able to have a child of your own. And worldwide, the success rate for fertility treatment at the time, all over the world, is between 35 and 45%. It's not even up to 50% yet. It just depends on the type of treatment that you go through that increases your probability maybe about 10 or additional 15% to be able to achieve that conception. So IVF is not 100%. You freezing your eggs is not 100% that you would actually get a live child out of it. And the younger you are, the older you are, the more eggs you need to be frozen. So for instance, if a 25-year-old comes and say, I want to freeze my eggs, you can just freeze maybe about 15 eggs and hope that, out of that 15 eggs, you'll be able to have a child or two out of that, right? If you are 30, that's just 5 years difference. You need double the amount of eggs to freeze, so that you can have the same probability of, taking a child or two out of that. Because when you're older, the chances reduces, so you need more eggs to be able to increase your chances. So when you're 35, you even need a lot more. Wow. And the irony of it is that as the older you get, the lesser the number of eggs that you provide. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, we definitely the younger ones letting them know they need to be more aware. Because when you're listening to your statistics, I mean, it's just, wow. We need to start early. How many of us get married at 24, 25 now? Not that many.
Well,
so.
That's the reason why we need to, put the awareness out.
Yeah. So you're talking more about egg donor or sperm donor. How much, you mentioned earlier you do a lot of screening. How much screening is done there? Because sometimes people are concerned, they're not sure if there are any issues with the person or that actually donated the egg or the sperm, any mental health issues. How much research and screening is done for prospective donors?
Okay, so screening for donors is a little bit different from screening for surrogates.
Right.
Although there is a general baseline screening where you would screen, you have when a donor walks into the door, the first thing you want to do is just do a quick physical assessment. It's stages, it's different phases. Okay. You want to do a quick physical assessment. You want to do maybe an informal interview, and then you do a blood test. A blood test is baseline for everybody. And then once the blood test is clear, then you do a proper interview where they fill out a questionnaire, and then you use that questionnaire to actually interview and scrutinize everything that they have listed or answered in the questionnaire. And you have to keep in mind that these donors are very smart. They will tell you what you want to hear. They will they anticipate what you expect, especially with age. I have a lot of donors that come because they know that there's an age limit. And then they'll tell me this is my age. But when you ask them for the date of birth, then it doesn't tally. So, and I don't know a lot of people that will miss their date of birth. If you ask me for my date of birth, as old as I am, I think I can answer it even while I'm fast asleep. So, but you kind of have to be able to be in it long enough to be able to decipher if this one is telling me stories or if they're actually telling me the truth. Some go to the extent of saying that they have a degree in this and have a degree in that because, the screening parameters, kind of varies and all that. And, for me, I just want the truth. You don't have to, I want some level of intelligence. You don't have to have all the degrees in the world. After all, we do have, awareness in the schools and the universities. We do have university students that are, accepting and willing to do the donor thing. but most of the cohorts that are available and readily available to do it, it's not because they don't want to go to school, it's because they didn't have the opportunity to. And when you have a conversation with them, you can tell that they are actually very intelligent, and they're intelligent enough to actually preempt you and know what you actually want from them. And, at the end of the day, you make them go through all this screening and let them know that, listen, I don't want you to tell me the way it is. Don't lie to me. Don't try to impress me. That's not what I want. I just want to get to know you, the true identity, the person you are, and what you do and how you do it. Because what they're doing, truly and truly is very altruistic. I mean, there's no amount of money you can pay them to compensate them for what they're doing. And so they need to know that. That's where the education and the counseling comes, because we do educate and counsel the donors and the surrogates as well. So through that, you get to, when they've done the physical screening, the blood screening, then they go through the psychological screening, and then you get to know that, that if they're qualified or not. So there are lots of them that are actually disqualified. It's not everybody. It's not an automatic process. You definitely disqualified. And then for the surrogates, you have to make sure that they're healthy enough to be able to do it. You have to know that they've had children in the past, or they've experienced pregnancy and had successful deliveries. And they also do the blood test screening, and they also do the questionnaire screening. And then you also question them and ask them questions. And you particularly want to scrutinize the surrogates deeper than the donor, because the donor process is very short. It's about 2 weeks, everything is done. But the surrogate, it takes a span of about 8 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And you want to be sure that they're going to be dedicated to the process, and they have the mental stability and family support that they need to be able to go through that process. So those are the things that you have to really, as a professional, make sure that you're getting the right people. And that's one of the things that we offer. We just don't take everybody off the street and put them through cycle. No, we don't do that.
Okay. That's wonderful. And in terms again of donors, either sperm or eggs, sometimes people have the concern that how is it controlled? People don't want to feel like a particular, especially in maybe donor sperm, that a man could potentially have thousands of babies all over the States, and
well, they're having that problem in the Western world, I can tell you that much. Donor sperm, well, hey, even men can decide to have 100, 200 children if they decide to marry many wives. So that one is not an issue. But for the donor egg, the standard is that a donor cannot donate more than 6 times, and hopefully will not birth maybe more than 3, 5, at most 6 out of that. That's the universal standard. So, and that's the reason why Medbarn have decided that we're going to help this area, this lacuna. Okay, so you have a situation where you have a donor register with 10 clinics. Say, I would like to donate, right? And then, of course, it's going to be whoever is ready to call me first, I go. And then when I'm done here, I go to the next one. When I'm done there, I go to the next one. And then they keep going and going and going. And, of course, they're smart enough to know that, my name may, just pop up somewhere, and someone may recognize my name. And then they go changing and, answering a nickname or having a pseudonym or, changing, just assuming another identity altogether. And when I was in the Medical Arts Center, I actually felt handicapped, with this process, because, no matter how you screen them or interview them, you can never know where they've been to until they tell you. I mean, unless you have a crystal ball that you're looking at, and, to say, okay, has this donor gone somewhere? And that was what gave birth to the data management, the database management that Medbarn is the only agency has that database management. So we cater, what we're doing is trying to establish a database management that has a unique identifier that clinics can actually go and run a query on a donor that walks into their door if they have, gone somewhere else and how they have
that's
done.
really nice. Yeah.
And to register donors is free. There's nothing, it doesn't cost you anything. To register surrogates is free. If you subscribe to the database management that Medbarn provided, it costs you nothing to enter, the data of the donor. However, if you want to run a query, because the donors go from clinic to clinic, if they come to you and say, have you been somewhere else before? And the knee-jerk answer is no, I haven't done it before, or I've only done it once. That once is like they've done it 5 times. They're just telling you, yes, I haven't experienced doing it, but I've only done it once, because they know that's what you want to hear. Yeah. So that's the reason why Medbarn has decided, you know what, we're going to try to step into this space and bring some kind of sanity into this, because not only does it give you a true picture of the donor that you're using, it also helps the donor to, protect them, protect themselves, basically, without them knowing that, hey, lady, you've done it 10 times already. It's time for you to take a break. You don't want to just keep going like an Energizer battery. Yes, you're doing, something good, but yes, there's a limit to what you can do, and don't expose yourself to unnecessary pressure. And they need to know that in as much as they can still have their own children after they've donated, they cannot wait until they're 40 before they start trying. And then they say, oh, I was told I can have my own babies, or now they've taken all my eggs and I can't have my own babies. That's part of the counseling that goes to the donors. You have to actually sit them down and let them know what they're doing, what they're getting into, how many times they can do it, and how it can affect them adversely if they continue to just go and go and go. And, on the other hand, with the clinics, when donors continue to go and go and go and go, at some point, the body is going to say, you know what, I'm tired. I'm not going to do anything. And then by the time you find out that they're not responding to your treatment, you spend 200,000, 250,000, 300,000 in some cases has gone down the drain. But you can quickly find out if they've gone to several places on our database and pay peanuts, for maybe 5,000 naira as opposed to losing 200,000, to just be sure that this donor is who they say they are and they haven't, gone to several places like they say they haven't.
Oh, that's an amazing service that you're offering there. It's actually very helpful to people, like you said, for both sides, both to the patients and to the clients, and for the clinics rather as well. So that's wonderful. In terms of the counseling, because you mentioned counseling a lot, and that's actually really amazing that you offer counseling, because I think many times people are not aware of what the feelings and emotions that they could actually go through when considering donor gametes or surrogacy. But in talking about donor gametes, when people do the counseling, do you also help to almost prepare their minds to know that, okay, sometimes someone might feel like, well, they use a donor and then use a donor egg and then have a child, and maybe a year after they have a baby without even trying. But now they can't go back and say that, now that I have my own biological, quote unquote.
Okay, so this is the way, that's a possibility, and that's part of what we discuss with patients all the time. There's a high probability that once you use a donor or you even adopt, the stress hormone in your system just fizzles away, because then you feel like, okay, I'm accomplished, I'm okay, I'm good to go. And then, you just go about doing your own thing, and then boom, you realize that you're pregnant. It happens all the time. That does not take away the fact that that child is your child, because you have that child as yours, and you're raising that child already, and you've bonded with that child already. And there's no, and that's what I tell patients, when they say, but that child is not my child, I say, so that child is not your child. So really, you carry pregnancy for 9 months, 8 months, 9 months, and then you deliver that baby. Are you going to let some fly perch on that child? I don't think so.
Exactly,
You carry that child, you deliver that child, and that child is your child. Even if someone's trying to remind you that, hey, remember this child is donor egg, you'll be like,
exactly.
because at that time you have bonded with this child. This child is yours, so there is no question whatsoever. I have never seen, knock on wood, in my 18 years, where someone comes back and say, hey, by the way, this donor egg child, I don't want again. Says who? As in, never, knock on wood. The only scenarios that happen is that, maybe if a surrogate carries a baby and the baby, comes out to be abnormal or something is off, and then, there's a controversy about, okay, I don't want, because nobody wants an unhealthy child or a baby. So, that kind of gets a little bit controversial. And that's where the agreement for the surrogate comes in, with the paid intending parents and the surrogate. So the intending parents knows that good, bad, ugly, this is yours. You're not going to abandon any child anywhere. This is what we're getting into. So, it's a lot more interesting and deeper when it's the surrogacy rather than the donor aspect. So even if you use a donor, you have a child that maybe is a little bit off balance or not, quite there yet, it's still your baby. I mean, you carried the baby, you delivered the baby, you're the mother of the child. So you take care of the child.
That's a great clause to have in the contract for sure. Let's get people thinking and know that, that's reality. Even for yourself, if you have a baby, you don't go and abandon the child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there are lots of young couple having, babies with Down syndrome or, one thing or the other. I mean, it's just that we all have it. It's just the one that we just hope that the one that is resilient, that is not so good, that is resilient, don't come. Because nature has a way of selecting. Nature can say, okay, it's not good enough. Let's just let this die off. But sometimes they're resilient. They keep growing and they come.
Yeah.
And some of them are not compatible with life, and some of them are compatible with life. But you just, it's just one of those things.
Right.
And it happens naturally too, not necessarily
exactly.
IVF.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because IVF babies are normal babies.
I know, right? It's good to stress that because sometimes people think otherwise.
Yeah.
In terms of surrogates, how much information do they know the intending parents?
No.
Right. Okay.
No. And I say no as a knee-jerk answer because majority of our surrogates don't get to meet the intending parent. However, we have a clause that says if you would like to know your surrogate, there is an opportunity for you to do that. And the surrogate has to be willing to know you as well. So it's not completely off the table to meet your intending parents or the intending parents meeting the surrogate. But because of a peculiar situation in Nigeria culturally, I, for the most part, don't encourage it. But if they want to meet the surrogate and the intending parent wants to meet the surrogate and the surrogate wants to meet the intending, they both have to consent to that, and we would have the appropriate surrogate to go for that intending parent. So, and there's some clinics, that are, that are clients that all they do is unanonymous. Unanonymous means that the parents will meet the surrogate. That's their own standard. They want the surrogate to meet the intending parent. Okay. I have clients like that, but for the majority of the clinics, or the majority of the intending parents don't even want to meet their surrogate. Some of them cite their surrogate, like they get to see their surrogate, but the surrogates will know that those are their intending parents.
Oh, I see. Okay. And for donors, how much information does the client get? Do they see
Okay, so
pictures or?
for donors, the client, some clinics still give out, the picture as a form of identity,
Right.
but most clinics share the profile.
Right.
That's what they share. So they share everything about the donor, from the first name to the age to the religion to the ethnicity to the complexion to the education. I think I mentioned that, height, weight, all those nitty
Yeah.
gritty details. Yeah, is shared with the patient.
Okay, that's good to know. And someone is listening, perhaps has been told by a clinic they need to consider donor gametes, either eggs or sperm, or even surrogacy, and is just not sure how to proceed. How will you say to reach out to you, or just take the first
Okay,
step?
so for couples out there that are faced with the challenge of having to accept the reality of needing donor egg or donor sperm, I say you're not alone in this difficult situation. There are lots and lots and lots of people that needs the same that are in the same situation. So don't think you're alone. I would say that truly and truly, it's all in the mind. There is nothing wrong in using donor egg or using donor sperm. If you desire to have your own children that you would love, nurture, and raise, you need to be open-minded about it. You can actually adopt, from a complete stranger, and you don't know what the makeup of that person is. So how come you can adopt an egg or a sperm, that you need, and then that you would raise and that you would carry, and that it's just like someone needing blood transfusion, really. I mean, I'm sick, I'm in the hospital, I'm short of blood. I need someone to donate their blood, for me to be able to continue with life. Because if I don't get that blood, I'll be gone. So what do? I don't know the person that is donating blood to me. I just need any kind of blood to survive.
Yeah.
So, I relate this. Yes, having a baby is not a matter of life and death, but it's a necessity, for the people that desire to have children. It's a desire, and that desire to have children is very critical. And the medicine is so advanced now that you're being given different kinds of opportunities to be able to have, the child or the children of your own that you desire to have. So don't think of it like, oh, why me? Is this happening to me? Other people are able to do this without having to consider this option. No,
Right.
you're not alone. Trust me, there are thousands and millions and millions out there that also require the same care, and they will not tell you if they've actually explored that option or not. Nobody, they don't owe anybody any explanation on how they achieve, the success story. So
Exactly.
don't worry, just do it.
Well said. Thank you so much. And is there anything else you'd like to share about your agency and services you provide, or?
Well, I'm just going to reiterate that Medbarn Agency is an organization that just do anything and everything to support the fertility world. Anything that has to do with reproductive medicine, we're into it. We're going to support anybody that needs the help or requires the help every step of the way. We are very customer centric. Anybody that walks through the door, be it the clinic, be it the patient, be it the donors, be it the surrogate, they're all our clients. So basically, Medbarn is here to support you every step of the way, whether you're a clinic, whether you're a patient, whether you're a donor, a surrogate, anything that has to do with fertility world. In this field, we're here, we're customers focused, customer centric, we're reliable, and we deal a lot with confidentiality as well, very reliable. And, we're here to just, help anybody that is in the field.
Thank you so much. And you've been there for such a long time, working with the pioneers in the industry, working with the pioneers in the US, in Nigeria. And so, you're well informed and definitely have the information to be able to and experience.
Absolutely. We have that advantage, and, we're willing to help as many people as possible to be able to explore the need and the services that they require. And you can also get more information on our website. We can be reached at medbarnagency.com, and we're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
All over social media.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing having you on here on the show. It's been such an informative session. You shared so much wisdom, dropped so much nuggets. I mean, everyone listening has been blessed. I have been blessed, and so happy to actually see that we have an agency like yours in Nigeria with us, because many times we feel that we need to travel abroad to access the services. So it's wonderful to have you here and for people to be able to access your services.
Thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful pleasure, and I'm happy to do this again whenever it's required.
Definitely. Thank you so much, and do have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Fertility Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Fertility Conversations. If there are any topics you would like to have discussed, please send an email to fertilityconversations@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourself and do stay hopeful.